Welcome back to CIO Insight here on the Pulse Network, everyone. I'm Tyler Pyburn. Time to talk a little Google Plus. Now, if you remember last week, we were talking Google Plus with Jason Brooks. So we thought that it was only fittingly so to talk about Google Plus again with Jason Brooks. So we welcome into the show editor-in-chief of eWeek Labs. Jason, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Tell me.
Well, you know what? Here's one reason why I think we need to keep talking about Google Plus. I'm a user, but Google, I think like a lot of companies, they're changing the product almost weekly.
Yeah.
They keep adding new features. They keep making things broader, bringing in new applications. I guess that's good, Jason, but sometimes I can tell you for me as a user, it gets very, very difficult to figure out where you are and sort of keep up to speed with what's going on with a product like Google Plus.
No, you're right. Definitely, Eric. And, since you weren't here last week, I want to make sure that you weren't left out of the Plus conversation. We're networking here.
Well,
it's totally right. It, and the things that Google has this latest step, in some ways has made things simpler, and in some ways has made it more complicated. And part of it is that if you're an individual user and you have a Google Apps domain, and that's your main address, then you're going to come to Google Plus, and when it first came out, you want to use your Google address with it,
Right.
a big deal. So, but they didn't have support for Google Apps accounts, and part of that deals with the fact that it's not just individual users who are using Google Apps accounts. I mean, the real push on that is for organizations to use it. And they've got separation between their Gmail accounts and the Google Apps accounts, and that was some of what led to the slowdown in getting this rolled out to those organizations. So if that was your address, it makes things simpler. But also now you have this question of, okay, well now I have an organizational Google Apps account, and I also might have a personal Google or Google Plus account, and how do those interact? And honestly, that's a pretty complicated topic right now.
Well, I think it is. Google and Google Apps, Google Plus, Picasa. Well, Buzz went away, but now the Gmail interface just changed yesterday, I believe. So it really starts, for me as a user, it starts to get very confusing in terms of what's privacy, what's up on Google Plus, which circles can see what, and I'm not sure that there's one place where you can sort of see a visibility of actually all that's taking place. Have you found anything like that?
Well, a lot of people are talking about it on Google Plus.
Yeah.
Well, that's the joke. That's the primary thing that people talk about on the service is Google and Google products. I mean, part of what I think that we're dealing with a little bit of a hangover right now, where Google has had a lot of different products that have a lot in common as far as what they do, but didn't have a lot of common in terms of how they were put together, how they were integrated. And Google's trying to make a push to integrate them better, but in that process, there's a lot of confusion, as well. And like I said, part of it is this question where you take a Twitter or a Facebook, on one hand, or you take a Salesforce.com, Chatter on the other hand. There's a lot of these, or a Yammer. A lot of these services are they're pitching themselves at businesses, they're pitching themselves at consumers, and there's definitely bleed between the two. But for Google, I mean, they're really trying to go hard at both audiences at once, and I really don't see a clear game plan from them on how those two sides are supposed to come together.
I was going to say, I mean, one thing to me when I keep hearing this, you say that there's no clear decision. I mean, it's almost like baptism by fire right now. It's like, okay, we'll keep trying it. It doesn't seem to me like there was a clear-cut decision prior to any of this happening. It seems like we continue to come up with things as they go along almost, Jason.
Well, I mean, part of it is that Google, I think that there was news just last week that Google did 57 acquisitions. I believe that's right, last year.
Yeah.
And then a lot of these products were born as separate things. And so they're at some point, they have to bring them together. And so that can be confusing. But yeah, I mean, like one of the big pushes for Google Plus is as an identity service, right? That's kind of what I think Eric Schmidt had actually explicitly said that at one point in an interview. And you get to say, okay, and they've been pushing it with, you have to use your real name and things like that. So like I went out and I made a Jason Brooks account under our eWeeklabs.com, test domain that we use for testing Google Apps. But as soon as I made it, I thought, okay, well now what? I mean, I've got my existing Jason Brooks that has all the, circles and people following it, and now I've got this other account. What am I intending to do with that? And I don't know. It's like for the organization, they have some cool features for Google Plus. Like you can say, only share this with other people within my organization, and administrators have a certain amount of control over the service, and that's great. That's important for a company. But then you say, well, are we all going to have separate personas? What happens when we move between companies? Who owns the contacts, et cetera. These aren't new issues, but kind of the way that Google's trying to straddle both worlds is really kind of bringing them to a head in Google+.
So I'm curious, Jason, put on your IT administrator hat and you went out and bought into the Google Apps story, the domain. I don't know, you've got a 20-person company, or actually a lot of them are educational institutions. You're at a college, you're all on, Google Apps. And now everyone's coming with those questions. Hey, I already have a Google Plus account under my Gmail. Can I meld the two? Can I put them together? What's your advice?
Well, Google has said that within the next few weeks there will be a tool that will let you migrate. So, and they've said that so essentially you will be able to take your one account. Maybe it's it's going to be more than likely a Gmail account or a non-apps account, and you want to move that to your primary address if that's an apps account. I mean, that's clear enough. Okay, you can move from one to another, but yeah, it doesn't answer the question of how do you, deal with the part that your organization wants to manage and the part that's personal. My advice would be, talk to Google about it, because if you are a customer of Google, apps, you're paying them for the service, and you're looking at using Google Plus as part of kind of your internal communication strategy, or getting your employees talking to each other and all that good stuff. There's a lot to be said about that with the Hangouts and document sharing, et cetera, et cetera. Google's got to answer some of these questions. I mean, how do they foresee this working? Now, when the migration tool comes out, we'll know a little bit more, and maybe there will be, within the tool, there will be kind of a pointer to how this might work. But as Google is, if you are a customer of Google, they're gonna want to listen to you, and especially if you are a paying customer. And so it's really, at this point, it's my advice is to talk to Google about it and say, hey, look, this is what we need. We need a little more clarity on this.
Well, I will say, the people I've known a few people who have gone to Google Apps in their companies. Talking to Google is not that easy. They have a hard time getting through actually talking to someone. And Google seems to really want to push you to try and do it all over, over email. So actually talking to someone can be pretty tricky in these instances.
No, that's a good point. I mean, Google as a company, they're really focused on algorithmic solutions to everything, right? So, all right, that's one thing for detecting spam, but when it comes to the whose throat do I choke, question, it isn't quite as satisfying, wrap your fingers around an algorithm. So no, that's a knock on them, and it's something that, that's something for companies that are in the process of talking to Google about a prospective beginning to use the service, and that's definitely something to raise, and to make sure that that you'll have a contact, or be comfortable with the lines of communication that will be available to you, and if all else fails, I guess you can post on Google Plus about it.
Well, there you go, Tyler. Some algorithmic processing.
I was going to say an algorithmic process of.
Like, what are you going to have for lunch today?
Yeah, I was going to say, I need, left, right, up, down, up, down. We'll just do it that way. Hey, Jason,
exactly.
Great stuff as always.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
Jason Brooks of eWeek Labs. All right, folks, we're going to take a break. We do have one last segment. What's coming up next? Well, what's coming up? I'll explain more in a few seconds here on CIO Insight.